Yes, people, it's your boy Osman back again with another Rival Fan podcast. As always, every Tuesday, 9 o'clock. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and slap a like on the video. The gang is here. Sadly, Kish, who's in Ibiza, if I'm not mistaken, so he's actually got a genuine reason. And his team actually won 3.0, let him off. He can't be here. But Lawless is in hiding, just like his midfielder, who's apparently worth 150 million. We'll get into that at some point if we've got time for irrelevant clubs in North London or East London even. Not even North London. Is that irrelevant? I don't even know what ends they're from. But listen, we have got the homies in the building. He's been here before, but it's the first time this season representing Chelsea. What a day to do it. Kev is in the building. How you doing,
Good man. Let's get this started.
Yeah, it's good to see a smile on your face. Obviously, Chelsea, great spirits. But you're linked to Maguire. Don't worry, I'll get your thoughts on that very shortly. For me personally, will be a fantastic signing for you. But we'll get into that. The man top of the table. If you haven't got him on social media, well, you don't know. But if you have, you definitely know they're top of the table. GK is in the building, bro. How you doing?
Man, I'm comfortable. I'm enjoying life, man. Hoping it lasts, but yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Another good weekend, another 3 points. We move.
You love to say, listen, it's all rosy for Arsenal in the garden. We will get onto that very shortly. Shout out to Ilyas as well, as always, showing love. Shout out to everyone, obviously, slap a like and all that good stuff. But listen, we're going to get straight into it. Slightly shorter show because we've got other commitments. As always, get your comments in and obviously get your thoughts in regarding any of the teams that we will be covering. But listen, we're going to get straight into it. We're going to start with Chelsea's. Is it a surprising loss? I'm not sure. Obviously, against Tottenham, I thought they were quite good. In the second half, not so much in the first. But anyways, let's just get straight into it. 3-0 to Leeds and Koulibaly red card as well. I don't really know where to start, Kev. We'll pass it to you. I'm sure me and GK, we're going to jump in at some point. We will let you have the floor first. Bro, chat to me about that one.
That game was just shambolic. Like, obviously, I do think Chelsea started very, very well. But one thing with this Chelsea team at times, and it may be a mental issue, is that like we kind of played into the Leeds crowd. So obviously, Mendy making that mistake, I just knew already from there, like, can we get back into this? But like, I think it was a bad day. Like, obviously, there are a lot of reactionary people right now just regards to Chelsea season. There's been like just going into the season as well. But as I said, Conor Gallagher as well. I do not want to see him in that midfield again. Like, wow. I just can't.
Already, mans were gassing him when he was
He's not. But this is the thing. He's not someone that plays a double pivot, anyways. Like, he's not. That's not really his role. Like, I feel like in the side of a three, he's fine. But in terms of that double pivot, he can't. Like, I just can't. Like, what I was seeing yesterday, yeah. Wow, disgraceful. And like, it was always going to happen at one point. He was always going to have one stink at one point. But even then, I don't think so. He was too bad, anyways. I don't think he was too bad. But I don't know what you guys thinking about Chelsea, because I just feel like it was a bad day in the office.
I'm sure there's a lot that GK. No, go on. I'll let you go on.
I think Thomas Tuchel is back in the building, bro. And listen, I don't even think he left. I'm gonna be real, yeah. Listen, a lot was said, yeah, about credit being due to your performance against Tottenham. I'm not one to prop those bums. Yeah, you should know what my feelings are about them. But listen, their mentality, yeah, is this: they've been beaten so many times at Stamford Bridge. They went to Stamford Bridge not to lose. They sat back and they invited pressure on from you, and that made it very easy to play against Tottenham. That made it very easy to play against them. I think a lot of Chelsea fans got lost in that kind of sauce where they were like, oh my God, we're back, we're playing football. Like, you've been so starved, yeah, of what intricate attacking play looks like, that you saw glimpses of it, yeah, against Tottenham. You still missed chances, like Havertz, putting up stinkers in front of goal in that game as well. I think you're so starved of what fluidity in attack looks like, because the only place you can really come to in London to see that is North London. I ain't talking about them bums, right? You got caught in that hype, and you thought, yeah, we're back. But Leeds, they were at home. They had the home advantage. They were like, look, we got nothing to lose. They did not play the same game that Tottenham did. They were like, look, if we play to win and lose, that's on us. And they were prepared to take more risks. And they pressed you. They got in your face. They did not play with any respect given, that Spurs had given to you in the prior week. Because Spurs played with fear. Because they were like, we're not coming in to get made to hold corner again. Whereas Leeds, they just played with freedom. And they were just like, you know what, we're going to stick it on these and see what happens. Now, I've been hearing all this talk about Koulibaly. I'm not saying my fan base don't do it, but I've been hearing Chelsea fans suddenly elevate him into world-class conversations he don't belong in. Yeah, saying, oh, he's better than VVD now. You know, he's better than this player. He's better than that player. Just because he's your player. Listen, this guy has got 6 red cards. 6 since his career started at Napoli. Guess what? That's more red cards than any player in Europe. Yeah. So this is nothing new. And we've been saying this. This man's 31. He's coming to the Prem. The speed and the intensity of the league is much faster. And he's going to get caught out because he always does this, by the way. When people get behind him, he's always dragging people back. He's always clattering people. He's always trying to make the tactical foul. But unlike certain players, he's not very good at masking it, you know? And
yeah, that second one was
the second one was needless. It was so needless. You were going nowhere. You know what I mean? The game was already lost. The man was going nowhere. The first yellow card, there was about 3 there was 3 blue players in front of him. So look, I'm tired of hearing all these things come from your fan base. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but the Champions League, but you ain't got a system. You ain't got a style of play. You keep trying to tinker around and change things because you don't know what you're doing. You throw money at expensive players and say, look at us, we solved the problem. But you keep buying players, and putting them into a system you have no idea of how it's gonna work. You're just like, buy good players, get the checkbook out and vibes. That's you and United to a T. Get the checkbook out and vibes.
Don't bring us into this, man. Allow it, man.
It's true, though.
I'm not taking on
you know what I mean? Like, these man laugh at our transfers. They're like, who's this guy? Who? Like, they might not be stellar A-grade players, but Arteta has a system. This is how we're playing. This is the formation we're playing. This is how you fit in that system. With Chelsea, it's like, you're Raheem Sterling. Figure it out. Do you know what I mean? You're Koulibaly. Figure it out. You know, like, you've done this before. Figure it out. And this is why the Tuchel ban hashtag exists. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but just to jump in on the Tuchel thing, listen, firstly, you're speaking facts in my personal opinion. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the one thing I will say with Chelsea, right? Regardless of who you got in that front three, you've been poor for a long time now in terms of attacking fluid football. I mean, I don't agree with they don't have a system. I do think they have a system, and a lot of it is down to the wing backs. But with the attacking three, for whatever reason, regardless of which player is in that position, either Lukaku's, the Werners, the Ziyech's, Pulisic, it don't matter which player it is, they're all underperform consistently. And it seems like none of them are singing from the same hymn sheet. And again, it does remind me of Manchester United. Like you just mentioned Manchester United there. It reminds the way you're so dysfunctional in the final third is very similar to how we are. And potentially that does come down to a lack of system, but potentially that does come down to Tuchel. I think Tuchel is actually getting away with quite a lot, to be honest. Although he has done a lot of good at Chelsea, for me personally, there's a lot that he needs to answer for. And at the end of the day, granted, you know, you got midfield issues. Kante's getting on. Kovacic is injured quite a fair bit. Jorginho, we don't know what's happening with him as well. So you do need a midfielder, similar to ourselves again. But I just think that's a bit of a cop-out for Chelsea because he spent a lot of money. I mean, and he inherited a team that was spent, a stupid amount of money on certain players. He just bought Lukaku and loaned him back to the team for free that he just got him. And for me personally, I think a lot of the blame has to be on Tuchel. He needs to figure out what he needs to do to rectify the situation. He's not been here for, a couple of games like Eric Ten Hag, who's getting absolutely blasted and interrogated by British pundits. This guy's been here for 2.5 years now. Granted, he's got a bit of grace period because he's won the Champions League, and understandably so. He deserves his flowers for that. But in this current moment, you've just bought Sterling as well, and even Sterling's looking poor. I know he got a couple of chances.
At what point? The question sorry, the question I have for Chelsea fans, yeah, because I always see them calling out players, you know, like there when it was Gallagher, some when they say, oh, Mount's a football terrorist, you know, like always hear them moaning about one of their players. But at what point do we say it's so many players? We go back to Werner, Lukaku, you know, like we go back to, in my opinion, they've only had 2 great strikers, yeah, in the modern Premier League era. Yeah, post sort of Mourinho, Costa and Drogba. So at what point do we say all these attacking players can't be wrong or they can't be bad? Do you know what I mean? They're not accommodating for these players. They're just bringing them in and flinging them in the formation and being like, figure it out. You know?
Yeah, I've said. Oh, go on, sir.
I was just gonna say, yeah. You look at. I don't like to point out Tottenham or Liverpool, yeah. But as soon as they're onto a winner with Kane and Salah and Son, the whole team becomes about them and molding something around them and shaping the whole fluidity of the play and the attacking around players that work. You know, that their output is there. Like Chelsea, I just don't see it. I don't genuinely.
Kev, go on. Give us your thoughts. What's currently going wrong with Chelsea and how does Tuchel fix it? Because there's a lot of people. Well, I'll say a lot of people. There's people in the comments saying, has he lost the dressing room? Is it a situation that needs to buy a new player? Where do you see from a Chelsea perspective? Because for me, from an outsider, I can't really put my finger on it, but I just feel like Tuchel needs to change something because he keeps doing the same thing, expecting different results.
So, regards to Chelsea, it's an issue that's bigger than Tuchel. Like, so obviously under Roman, in terms of our like scouting and what we used to do is like, if you actually just look at like media in general, you see when someone's going for a player, Chelsea are not really interested. But when there's the hype there, you start saying, okay, cool, let me snatch this guy, and when you do that tactic, even though Chelsea have been successful in terms of trophies and stuff, you end up buying players that don't suit the manager's system a lot of the time. And Tuchel's coming to a setup where he hasn't actually got his players. And one of the reasons why we kind of allow Tuchel in general is because obviously he won the UCL. We had a great start to the season last season, bar the injuries that kind of affected our season as well. And we still kind of just got to both finals domestically and obviously won the Super Cup and stuff. So it's now a case of like Tuchel wants to get his own guys, but it's going to take a few windows to get everyone out. Like already in terms of the way he wants to play, that's the one thing I will say forward wise. I don't know sometimes what he asks of them. Just regards to we speak on Kai Havertz, he wants to bring Aubameyang, but the way what he asks Kai Havertz to do in terms of link up play, holding the ball up at times as well, interchanging. As far as I know, Aubameyang's not the person that can do the link up play. And right now,
Aubameyang's the opposite, isn't he? Really, of what you expect from Havertz. So I don't understand how that's going to work.
That's the thing, and it's like I know Sterling plays well with a striker as well, but if you want Havertz to press, run, link up play, obviously you want him to finish. Kind of, is Aubameyang going to press for you? I don't think so. Link up play, definitely not. So I'm not even a fan of that. And right now, Tuchel's obviously looking Dortmund days as well. Tuchel's had questions about his ID as well in terms of has he got good talent ID. So there are some good questions just regarding Tuchel, and I get why people have those concerns. Me personally, one thing is, as much as Werner, I've backed up Werner a lot, believe it or not. But in terms of Werner, other guys, as much as I see Chelsea miss up easy opportunities, there comes a time where I'm thinking it can't just be them, because if Sterling as well doesn't do his thing, and I feel like right now you can really see a bit of a weird transition. You're thinking you do have to look at what Tuchel's doing, and right now, for me personally, just regards to like Pep as well. In terms of attacking patterns of play, I feel like Tuchel wants everyone to kind of through them, but you can clearly see that these guys need to be told what to do. So why aren't you doing that? And part of it as well is that it's just regards to midfield as well. We haven't really got anyone that breaks the line consistently as well. So there's a lot of issues we have. If De Jong comes in, he can be a part of it as well. We don't really have that creative mind thinking. Mason Mount creates, but I don't think so. He's the best creating wise, but somehow stats will tell you the guy's creating a lot. So it's either I'm watching a different type of game because I know from the 8th position he can do the creating thing in terms of final third, composure wise, and that pass he doesn't give that to you. As I said, and it's bigger than Tuchel. especially players as well. It's a problem that we've been having with all different types of managers. It's only Costa and Drogba of late, anyways, that's been able to play that up front.
I've said, yeah, I agree. I think everything you said was spot on, by the way, like to a T. Yeah, I think you first of all, a director of football, like proper football mind needs to be brought into Chelsea. Obviously the transition, yeah, from ownership, yeah, there's always going to be bumps along the road when you're transitioning power. It's my understanding that he sacked Mourinho and a lot of the board when he could have waited until the end of the window and then I think given them a golden handshake. I don't think that helped. But I think equally, I think Chelsea, where they need to rebuild is not like the actual team. I think Man United and Chelsea really need to focus on the backroom, like the setup, the stuff the stuff behind the scenes, you know, like you said, talent ID. You can't leave it just to a manager anymore. Those days are gone. You need like a proper data analytics team. You need like proper scouts. You need like, you know, as I said, a technical direction, sporting direction team. But the main thing, right, with what you said about the squad inheritance, Thiago Silva is a great defender. A lot of Chelsea fans aren't ready for this conversation, right? But he's 38, yeah. So mobility-wise speaking, whenever you play him in a 4, he gets ripped because he doesn't have, you know what I mean, that cover. You know, if you get behind him, he's no longer kind of got the legs, you know, to get there. And so even when Rudiger was still there, it didn't work. This is the reason why Tuchel sticks to a 3. Now, if you look at Tuchel at Mainz, if you look at Tuchel at Dortmund, if you look at Tuchel at PSG, never used a back 3 ever. He would use it if he was backed into a wall. It's not his favoured system. So you got a manager using a system to accommodate Silva, and that's affecting your midfield block and your attacking block because you can't put a body in there in midfield and take one out of defence. Do you know what I mean? Like people say James and Chilwell can't play as wing backs in a 4. That's nonsense. But they absolutely can. You know what I mean? But you're hamstrung by the fact that he is your best centre back, and the other centre backs that you have don't give you the competency and the trust and the confidence to be able to go to a 4. And for me, this is why I was baffled when you bought Koulibaly, because you needed to go more in the direction of someone who's,
haven't they really, Bob?
Someone who's younger, who's got more athleticism, and that you can like kind of put next to him and maybe develop, that would have given you the would have enabled you to play with that 4.
We looked into De Ligt, we didn't get him. We got Koulibaly, we're trying to get Fofana as well. So I kind of see the progression of Tuchel does like to going back in the 4. At PSG days, he did kind of change things at times. If you look at Spurs, we played like a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3-4, and then we had like a 4-2-2-2, and like it was like kind of a hybrid situation. Regards to Thiago Silva, it's a weird one because I still think he'll be alright on the 4, but I do get it. I don't think so. We play in the 3 because of him. The reason being,
no, I'm not. It's not like I'm saying individually he's making mistakes or errors. It's just a natural limitation. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, that comes with being a centre back that's 38 in the Premier League. You know, like that's all it is. You know, like you won't notice it in a sense where he makes a glaring, obvious mistake and someone's in on goal, but just naturally, like, you'll notice it more in things like training or certain situations. You know what I mean? Like where that is why I believe you're stuck to using a 3 at the moment.
For me, I think midfield as well, because with Thiago Silva, when you actually watch Chelsea as well, we actually play quite a high line. I feel like that's one thing that people talk about Liverpool and stuff, but Chelsea actually play quite a high line.
Oh yeah.
And times which Thiago Silva has been isolated, I do sometimes think that 3-5-2 can actually helps and protects the midfield as well. And the fact that we've got Kante playing as well. We've seen, if you remember 18-19, 19-20, Kante alone DM or playing as an 8, that's not him. He's good as a double pivot. So the fact that we have either Kovacic or Kante at times, or we've had Jorginho and Kante, that alone, the fact that Kante is obviously still a regular starter, that formation helps him as well, because as a loan, that's not him. Double pivot wise, he's fine. Jorginho, from what I know as well, just before he came to Chelsea as well, he does play low in DM. Is kind of his kind of style. Napoli days, I think Italy played that. He played that position as well. But as I said, there's many issues I can actually just go into as well. And attacking wise, I feel like he just hasn't it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like we can't, it's not these Pulisic is not that bad. Like I don't understand. Like Pulisic, I know lockdown tax. People want to talk about tax, but he still showed something. Um, I'm not saying Pulisic was great, but he's not as bad. Ziyech as well. He gets played out of position. Mason Mount gets played out of position.
Havertz out of position.
There's a lot of them out of position. To be fair,
Too many round pegs and square
Werner,
holes.
Werner's out
You
of
know what I
position.
mean?
Obviously,
I
he's
think
gone
that's
out.
not helping either.
What used to work is that with this formation, we were so compact at times. Even we attack, we were so compact that we won't concede goals. Now that we don't keep as many clean sheets, it's worrying times because now you're thinking now we actually need our attackers to actually get those goals in. Whereas before, this formation worked so well. The fact that we're keeping clean sheets. Now that we don't keep clean sheets as consistently as we used to, I used to last season. I was confident. Yeah, we won't concede more than one goal. Even so I'm thinking, hey, we ain't conceding 3 goals to Leeds. I didn't expect that. Even Spurs, I thought, nah. Like before, I was that confident. If you remember Chelsea from last season, from August to a good December, we weren't conceding like that at all. And even the opportunities we were conceding, they weren't that great. We were so solid.
Your defensive record under Tuchel, yeah, his first 50 games, he kept more clean sheets, conceded less goals than Mourinho in his first 50 games in the 04-05 season, where obviously you broke the Premier League defensive record of only conceding 15 goals. So that actually backs up what you're saying, isn't it? Like I remember those days, man. Those days are gone. I'm not seeing that anymore in your defense, bro.
Listen, we're gonna move on from Chelsea because obviously we're gonna be all night. Obviously, similar to a lot of the teams, there's a lot of issues. But let's lighten the mood a bit slightly. Let's lighten the mood. Obviously, as a United, we're saying subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Manchester United to Liverpool 1. Look, first things first, right? Going into this game, the amount of Liverpool fans that are chatting about 5-0. 4-0, running back, emptying Old Trafford. A lot of it. I've had everything from every single Liverpool fans. But after this game, you're back in your caves where you belong. 1 Premier League title in 7 years. Your greatest cycle. The greatest Premier League team you've ever seen. I've seen combined 11s of Premier League players. And when Henry's on the left wing to accommodate Firmino, the shittest, most overrated player, Mohamed Salah in the team over Rooney and Ronaldo. These men got pocketed by little kids. One of which is 5'9", where your greatest ever centre-back, Jamie Carragher, spent about 20 minutes talking about his height, only for him to pocket your main man, your other man, and Luis Diaz, who's meant to be a bad man. He flipping locked them all up. Listen, Liverpool fans, chat to me. You, man, will be chatting like you've been dominating the Premier League. You ain't done shit. You're not Man City. You ain't done shit. 1 title, same as Leicester. And on top of that, it was a COVID title. So for me, it don't even count. So for 0 titles, basically. But we'll let you claim it because it's been 30 years of away. But listen, let's just go into the game. First things first, you got outrun by Manchester United. The same Man United team the week before that Brentford outran by almost three times the distance. And you got outrun by us. You got outfought by us. Rockstar football, we were told by Klopp. You can't blame the witches this time. But listen, I tell you one thing, what you can blame is the fucking grass. Listen, the grass wasn't cropped. I'm sorry. We're guilty as charged, my guy. Honest to God, it's absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. The tears today. I'm sure you guys have seen the Liverpool fan tears, blaming everything. They're talking about how are Liverpool fans talking about midfield when it's known to anyone who watches football that Man United have got the shittest midfield in the league. There's about 15 teams with a better midfield, even maybe Nottingham Forest now as well. You can throw them in the conversation. Our midfield is that bad. But Liverpool fans are basically saying they lost this game because of midfield. If only you had a manager that had a pair of balls, like our manager who dropped Ronaldo, dropped Martial, dropped Shaw, and drop Maguire. So that's all I want to say for now. Boys, chat to me. Man United 2, Liverpool 1. They thought they're coming to Old Trafford to get another 3 points.
All I'm going to say,
was desperate. He was desperate for it. He were desperate. And I can see why, because he got fucking slapped. Head home, you piece of shit.
I've been running this one past a few Liverpool fans, man. Legend has it, yeah, that Sancho's got Milner still sliding, looking for that second Premier League title, bro. And listen, I want to back this up. Yeah, because we got a Chelsea fan here, we got an Arsenal fan here, yeah, we got a United fan here, yeah. And when we talk about Premier League dominance, yeah, when we talk about it, yeah, Arsenal didn't retain a title, but there was a period, yeah, 7 league titles between Arsenal and United, yeah. We took 3, they took 4, yeah. Mourinho come in, did his thing, yeah. Obviously, back-to-back titles, did a cup double, I think, in his first season, did the defensive record, 04-05. That period, Chelsea were on top. Do you know what I mean? 3-4 years, domestic clubs, league titles and everything. I don't usually have beef with Liverpool fans, yeah. But when I see them shoehorn in certain things, yeah, into conversations they don't belong in, yeah, I'm hearing, you know, Salah, he's coming for Henry's legacy. I'm like, he might do. He hasn't done it yet. Oh, he's only got 1 less golden boot. So what? You're telling me you've ever seen a level, yeah, in Salah in his whole career, yeah, that you could even compare to Henry's little pinky toe? Like, behave like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So listen, for me, right, I got a lot of mates that are Liverpool fans. When we went top of the league, yeah, they were like, oh, you got to calm down. It's only 3 games. It's only 3 games. But the funny thing is, last season, when it was only 3 games and we were getting bust, yeah, getting made to hold corn. Now all the Man United and Liverpool fans want to remind me that it's only 3 games. That's what I was doing to you, man, last season. So I'm just like, where is this energy? That's why it was funny. I was sat there and I was like, I hope Man United lose. But by the same token, it didn't really bother us because obviously as an Arsenal fan, we're 9th. You know, Liverpool are probably more in a state to challenge when they get their injuries back. Yeah. So obviously, I'm not sat here saying we're going to win the league, but obviously you want to maintain your position, right? For as long as possible. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it is. Yeah. And to see Man United do that, like, they actually, in every department, bullied them. And I don't want to hear this talk about we didn't have our best players that I've been hearing all day, because they're always telling us they got the best squad, the best.
No, but to be fair, like, in their defense, they didn't have Oxlade-Chamberlain. They didn't have.
Hey, nah, this guy.
Have you seen that tweet? At one point, they didn't have Ox and Kelly.
Every time you're like, oh, don't worry, man. Milner's won the lactate champion, yeah, again for the next season, yeah. You know, he runs more than anyone. All this, and it's like, listen, in 2022, if you were the 2nd biggest club in England, you have been to 3. You've been to what, 4 Champions League finals? You've won 1. You've lost 3. You've narrowly lost out on the Premier League like 4 or 5 occasions. You know what I mean? You were that close to doing the quad last season. When Man United, Arsenal, and Chelsea were in these dominant phases, they doubled down. Even when they won, they would double down, and that's when Arsenal fell off. When Chelsea obviously rocked up, you know, in Mourinho's first windows, and we didn't really react to that, yeah. So the blueprint's there, bro. Do you know what I mean? They gone into this window with arrogance. Oh, you know what? We don't need no midfielders. We'll wait for Bellingham next season. We'll be able to coast by, and all these other people that are chasing us, they're so light years behind us that we'll be able to coast with this squad, yeah, and just, you know, finish in the top 2 and go get Bellingham next summer. Listen, underestimate Arsenal at your peril. As much as I want to say it, yeah. As much as I want to say it, no, it's not even just us, because obviously you look at Tottenham, you look at like how Chelsea is strengthening. If they stand still, we will close that gap, all 3 of us. Yeah, I'm not, you know, like even United, you know, like you never know, you know, like that's what I'm saying.
But listen, you use the word arrogance. Obviously, you were using it in a different context, and I just want to make. Kev, I'm going to bring this to your attention because I feel like we've had this chat in person. Can we talk about Virgil van Dijk and arrogance? This mother lover here, right, thinks he's untouchable. These man said he's better than Rio, Terry, fucking Cannavaro, Maldini, Nesta, you name it. Apparently, this guy is the greatest centre-back in flipping football history. The way they go on about him, I personally thought, I don't think he was at fault for the goal like Crystal Palace when Zaha scored. But for me personally, if that's a Terry, that's a Rio, one of them, or Vidic, whoever it may be, they're sliding in and they're at least attempting to make a block. They may not get there, but they at least have the intentions. And again, Sancho sat your team down. half your back line sat on the arse. Alisson sat on his arse.
That was
Van
illegal.
Dijk, the only one that sat on his arse. No wonder
crazy.
why. I wonder why. Because all Van Dijk cares about is his individual stats about not being taken on. Listen, how can you get taken on if you never commit to a challenge? The guy just stood there like an absolute waste man, doing nothing, watching all his team sat down, hands behind his back, not even putting pressure on not putting pressure on Sancho, not going last stage, not doing nothing. And for me, his arrogance and Trent's arrogance defensively for the first goal as well cost him the first goal. And for me,
Mate, honestly, man, Usman's definitely onto something, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. The man was just stood there, like he doesn't come out to meet the man. Like, you're on mute, man. Can you hear him?
No, I can't hear him. He's definitely on mute.
Usman, you're on mute, man.
Oh wow.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, one thing I want to add to this whole, Liverpool and that situation. Liverpool, I really had an incline that United can get a result.
okay, there we go. I'm back. I was on mute. My mistake. Right, okay, sorry. I had to disconnect then when I was slagging Van Dijk, didn't I? Bloody hell. Right, okay. So my question is, Ken, what are your thoughts on the defense and just the general arrogance? Trent and Van Dijk both costly for the first goal. Just not doing their due diligence, basically.
Yeah, like Liverpool, for me personally, they've been shaky all season so far, defensively wise. Whether guys want to blame the midfield or not, they've been shaky. And I feel like part of it is also like they've been found out. Now, I do feel like they've been found out time ago. And like, do you remember like in 1920 when like you're thinking how are Liverpool getting away with it? I feel like this season might be the season where teams start to capitalize on the opportunities they get as well. Because Liverpool will always give you an opportunity. With Van Dijk, I was shocked with what I've seen. Like, actually, let me not lie, I wasn't too shocked because that's just how he is at times. But I'm thinking the way he just looked, and I'm thinking like Milner as well. Like Milner had every right to just have a go at him because that was disgraceful. Like man, literally went like this. Like, I don't know what he's trying to do. Like I've never. Oh nah. If someone from my team at my club did that, I would have lost my head as well. But let's not.
See what?
I was gonna say let's not divert the fact that Trent as well. I don't know why he's sliding in like that as well. I don't know what he was thinking as well.
Trent got away with that, by the way, because if that was
Van Dijk,
it's a 100%. So
You see what though? When Milner had a go at him, I don't think that was a smart thing to do. I'll explain why. Yeah, when we played Liverpool at Anfield, and Arteta got into a set 2 with Klopp. Yeah, we were doing fine up until that point. You notice that riled up the Liverpool crowd, didn't it?
yeah,
That got them like on side, yeah, because they saw weakness. Do you know what I mean? They saw like, okay, this man's clearly like rattled, yeah, like, and that got the crowd loud. Do you know what I mean? It got them really behind, and then obviously they got the goal before half time, and then we just capitulated in the second half. Yeah. I feel the Milner moment was similar when the camera, because the cameras straight away, yeah, they were watching Sancho do all the celebrations, and then immediately it cut screen to Milner having a right old go at Van Dijk, and Van Dijk trying to walk away from him. Do you know what I mean? And they were looking at that, and I looked at it in that moment, and I was like, this game's lost. I knew from that moment, you know, like I was like, Liverpool not winning this game, yeah, because the Man United crowd saw that.
Yeah.
Man United players saw that, and they were like, this team is there. Like they sniff blood, yeah. And even like the little shithousery, you know, that Liverpool fans have been crying about with Bruno with when they scored, keeping the ball. Like they got in their heads. Do you know what I mean? They got in their heads. They exploited that chink, that weakness. And I think, to be fair, that was very worrying. That should be very worrying. You know, because these are the mentality monsters.
I was
remember?
Just about to say
that's what Klopp calls them. You know.
By the way, just let's not forget about that. But what I will say is that atmosphere, obviously, because of the protests and stuff as well, that was occurring prior to the game. That atmosphere was probably the best I've ever seen at Old Trafford by a mile. Obviously, it's a derby as well. Liverpool might not have hatred, genuine hatred there. But like you said, those little moments that definitely got the crowd behind we actually started to believe that there was because it was just weird to see it happen because obviously I understand why Milner's shouting him. Don't get me wrong, haven't seen the replays, etc. But I'm just not used to Liverpool being so weak mentally. Like they just seemed like it was only 1-0, like, and it was very early in the game, but it seemed like they were already defeated like, at that point for some reason. And we played on it, absolutely played on it. The players were up for it. And I thought we should have been outside. Like, I know the possession stats and other people are saying, "Oh, Liverpool dominant, etc." I don't believe that personally. But we had all the openings. If we had better decision making in the final third, we probably should have scored a couple more goals. Obviously, Rashford was a
better chance.
yeah, anger
Much better.
was clinical, but yeah, for me personally, man, Liverpool like 2 points. They're on 2 points. Look at the games that they played. Man United included should have been an easy win for them. Let's be real. You know, we're the worst Premier League team as it currently stands. We're at the bottom for a reason. You know, they've drawn to Fulham, they've drawn to Palace, and for me, it's not going to get spoken about a lot. But I think Klopp's had a mare. He sold Origi and Sadio Mane, and I don't think people appreciate both of them. I know Origi didn't have as much of an impact as he probably, you know, he could have, etc. I know Jota's injured, etc. And I know he stepped up as well in recent times. But for me, Origi or Mane, one of them two players, I think Liverpool at least get a draw minimum if one of them two's on the page. A minimum draw. Honest to God, they had nothing going forward. Like, I know
you got to bring into question what Nunes did in the previous game as well. You know, like it highlights it even more into context as well. You know, obviously getting sent off of that headbutt, he's let his teammates down. You know, like they're already short for options up front because of injuries, and he knows that. He's going into the game knowing, look, my squad is light in the striker department. We've lost Mane. Firmino was injured. He was carrying an injury, so I don't think he's come back fully fit. You know, Jota's injured. There's definitely no chance of him playing in that game. I've got to keep my head and my wits about me. I've got to make sure I don't get injured and make sure I don't get sent off. I got to do both of those things. And he lost his head. And for me, he sat there watching from the stands. He's got to take big responsibility from that. You know, I know he's a kid. I know he's just got there. But again, all the gas that I was hearing, he's going to outscore Jesus. He's going to outscore Haaland. He's going to outscore this person, do that. And to be honest, that was his home debut against Palace. And that has massively impacted the outcome of that game as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I will say that I'm a bit disappointed that he didn't play because it would have been another person for Martinez and Varane to pocket, so just another person on the TV and that. Well, listen, Kev, we've spoken about their defense. I gotta ask you, I don't know what you made of it. Obviously, you're watching it at home. But for me personally, that was Varane's best performance in the Man United shirt. Martinez as well. You know, that's the first time they've played together. Obviously, like I said right at the start, there's a lot of question marks on Martinez, his capabilities of playing in the Premier League due to his lack of height, etc., etc. What did you make of the United defense? Because we made a lot of changes, to be fair. Because obviously Maguire and Shaw both got dropped, and Fred got dropped as well. So those three players that the defensive third that were replaced, so to speak.
So, regards to the defense, at this moment of time, it does seem like Varane and Martinez is a good partnership. One thing I will say is, against other teams such as, you know, the teams that you should be beating, when you do kind of play up the pitch, and I've had a discussion this with my guys as well, when you actually want guys to play out from the back as well, you might get caught again because Varane's not that guy for you. With Martinez, to all the fans that are listening, he's actually been all right for you lot. Guys are stretching it. He's not been that bad. He has not been bad. I get obviously losing 4-0, then that game to Brighton as well, you're going to look bad. But in terms of his own individual performance, he's actually been very, very decent. And yeah, just the way he gets into players' faces as well. Like, it would have been an interesting matchup.
That Salah thing right at the start, yeah. And I know obviously it's such a minor thing, but for me personally, as a Man United fan, I've not seen one of our players just be a bastard, excuse my language. But you need those players, especially a defender. Yeah. And you saw from Salah's face, he weren't expecting it. Like, too much respect. That obviously, GK, you were talking about how Leeds didn't respect Chelsea. That's the one thing that you do not want to do in these games, respect the opposition. And Martinez, for me, was a main catalyst for that in terms of the mentality shift within the players. I know Varane latched onto it as well, and he said in his post-match as well that they were geeing each other up, etc. But for me, just Martinez coming in and not giving a shit who Salah was and clattering him right at the start of the game and obviously nudging him, they weren't ready for that. Liverpool weren't ready for that. They've come here 2 games, how many times now? And they've slapped us 5-0 without even trying. We've lied down basically, and they've just violated us. So how many games in a row now? They went up for the fight because they were not expecting it, and I think it caught them off guard, which is understandable to be fair, because I think it caught a lot of people off guard. But GK, what did you make of the United defense? Obviously, it's just one game, innit? You know, at the end of the day,
Yeah. No, it definitely looks improved. But for me, the guy Malacia, this kid gives me Evra vibes.
Yeah,
I said it. Like, because I first watched him play for you lot in the Palace game in pre-season, and him and Dallo had that really good interchange.
Oh yeah,
but that cross for Martial's goal as well. Cuts inside, crosses with his right foot. You know, Dallo was obviously crossing to the box with his left foot. Like, that passage with play was nice. He was really good in that game. But yesterday, I just thought he was outstanding as well. Like, you got to consider, right? You know, Liverpool didn't start Carvalho, you know, because he's a teenager, and you're probably thinking it's wrong to start a teenager, to throw him into, cast him into the lion's den, the gauntlet, you know, like cast him to the wolves by putting them in not only a derby game, but let's be real, Man United Liverpool is the biggest derby in English, potentially world football. You know what I mean? Like, it's up there. You know what I mean, with the biggest rivalries in world football. So for Malacia to make his Premier League debut, you know, that was his debut. He made his debut.
Salah in his debut.
He made his debut against a dominant Liverpool. Okay, they were missing players, but Liverpool are that team at the moment. Let's be real, yeah. To come in and make that kind of performance against one of the players that is one of the best in their position, in the way that he did, I just think that showed great maturity. That showed great mental strength, concentration, focus, all of the things you will never see in Luke Shaw. His career got ended yesterday, in my opinion, as a Man United player. Like, he looks fantastic. He looks really good, man. You know, like, I don't like United, right? We got our rivalry, but if I like what I see, I'll just say it. Like, that's where I always am. You know, like, and I really think that kid's got a promising future.
For me, when he even came on against Brentford, I just said, yeah. I seen enough already from that point, thinking, yeah, sure, it's over for you. It's over for you.
Yeah,
and
time's done.
It's literally over for you.
Bro, Shaw is just ordering Deliveroo to wonder if he could get into the stadium. Listen, Shaw, Maguire, people, the amount of shit I get onto it because apparently I've got an agenda. At the end of the day, look, you got to take your opportunities, and hopefully Melissa's done enough to start. Surely he has. But as you said, showed great maturity. But in the past, I've got too carried away, so I'm just going to just relax myself a bit. It's one game. Let's see how it gets on against Southampton. It's easy. What I will say is, though, this includes Martinez as well, it's very easy to get up for a game like this in terms of mentally. You're up, it's Liverpool under the lights with everything that's going on off the pitch. All the players going to show the same fight and the same mentality.
Casemiro being in the crowd as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
The crowd was actually fantastic, to be fair, which, again, it's not something I'd say often at Old Trafford. But, yeah, look, we'll see how we get on against Southampton. That's what I was going to say. Like, end of the day, that's the real test now, because if we can show the same amount of fight and hunger to win the ball or to win the second ball, then it's gonna be interesting in a couple of weeks. And obviously, Casemiro does join that, as someone was just put in the chat. But listen, we're gonna move on from Man United because obviously we are trying to wrap it a bit earlier than normal. So let's talk about Arsenal currently top of the table. GK has mentioned it on a few occasions. I'm sure you guys have noticed. He's talking about how it's a great result that Man United won because Liverpool are their title rival. So let's just get straight into the question, GK. What are your genuine thoughts about Arsenal? I know you're just doing that as tongue-in-cheek. You know what you're like, but that's fine. But what are your genuine thoughts about Arsenal? Because I've got to be honest, I was watching the game with my boy, and Arsenal just look brilliant at the moment. Like, I can't even knock them. Like, you know, fantastic. The way you're playing, Kev's dying. Because obviously I hate Arsenal as well. It's not easy for me to say. But you can't fight, like you just said. Like, I'm not hating it. Obviously, I'll chat shit about it. I'm not hating. You can't hate on Arsenal at the moment. If you're hating on Arsenal, then clearly there's just no point. Quite clearly, they play fantastic. But one thing I will say, right, Jesus, man, that guy deserves his flowers because he has been Absolutely brilliant. I don't care about his stats. I know his stats are backing him up at the moment as well. I don't care about his stats. Similar to Martial, which we haven't even mentioned there. But similar to Martial, the what these men offer to the team is exponentially greater than a goal or an assist because they do so much for the team. And I think Jesus is the reason that you guys are currently flying the way you are. That you need to keep him fit. But GK, what are your thoughts on obviously Arsenal at the moment?
I mean, yeah, like for me, it's just a mixture of emotions, man. Like I do draw on the nostalgia of last season and how painful that was, man. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything from Chelsea. I wasn't expecting anything from Man City last season, but to lose in the way that we did, opening game of the season against Brentford, and to not even score a goal the whole of August, not even register a point, to be where we are now. As I said, I don't expect us to stay at the end of the season, but I feel that that's kind of symbolic, like of a metamorphosis that is taking place at Arsenal. Like we are changing. You've seen different performances. Palace, we had to dig deep. You know what I mean? Like I think they were the better team for at least 45 to 60 minutes of that game. Like Leicester and Bournemouth, we had to be ruthless. Like these are teams we should be beating that don't pose the same threat necessarily that Palace do in terms of like their overall strength and going forward. And we showed that we could do that. Now, look, it is only Brighton. It is only Bournemouth. It is only Palace, and it is only Leicester. I'm under no illusion. We've probably got a very favourable run of fixtures. But I think for me, you can still look at how the team is playing. Like you can see like the patterns of play that you will see them try to exact against better teams as well. You can see, the system is very fluid. Like the Jesus is running across the line. Like he's coming deep to get the ball. He's turning. He's spinning a man. He's passing the ball to Martinelli, breaking into the box, looking to get on the end of moves again. So he's bringing those guys in as well. And that culmination of linking up the play really well between our wide attacking players, Odegaard, and also being able to create something out of nothing for himself as well. I mean, you look at the Leicester game where Ramsdale's just hoofed the ball up. And, he's just stood the defender up who's behind him, just headed it and just turned around and spun around him. He's someone that can create something out of nothing. And when I think about players that Arsenal have had that can do that, I'm really thinking about Alexis Sanchez. I'm thinking like RVP. And I'm thinking without these kinds of players in our teams, like throughout our history, our team's not worked. It's not functional. Like it needs that enigma, that spark, someone that can just take the ball, beat a couple man, or suck a couple man in and then just release the ball to someone else who's in space because he's drawn the defenders in or draw the foul or whatever, can shoot with both his feet. He's just like, his impact has been a bit better than I expected, but I want to see it being tested. I think the first test is you lot in September the 4th. I think for me, when I look at that game, and in October, when I think we got Man City, Tottenham, and Liverpool in like a 4-game with Leeds sandwich in between one of those games, that's when I'll know, But you can definitely see like the way that we are playing that there has been progress in our attacking play. Like we are more penetrative and we are more ruthless, and that we are able to take our chances more in the final third. Because I think that's the only thing that was really missing. Like our build-up play, the structure of our defense. Saliba, what he's added to that as well, by the way. He's doing everything, at the moment that VVD used to, and I'm not saying he's anywhere near that level yet because he's got a lot to do. But obviously,
to be fair, that finish from Saliba, Chelsea could do with him up front. That was outrageous. That finish on the left. I think Zinchenko's reaction said it all. But listen, there's a couple of things I want to point out, but I know Kev's got a question, so we'll come to your question first, Kev.
Yeah.
Go on, bro. What's your question?
I feel like most performances I always hear Jesus, but I feel like I might be wrong, but like I feel like Zinchenko, like what he does for you, like what he's added, and it's now it's a case of like, do you think? Because I know I've had this question just before. Like, there people, Arsenal have said that they don't think so. Tini can do what Zinchenko does, but it's just that. Say there's comes the case that Tini comes in. How do you think that will affect the way you lot play? Because I've seen guys talk about Zinchenko ends up picking up 5 different positions, and it's just like I'm always hearing Jesus, but I'm not hearing enough Zinchenko prop.
Yeah, I mean, look. I mean, obviously, I went to the home game against Sevilla, where in pre-season it was a pre-season friendly. This guy was spraying first-time passes across the pitch, 50, 60-yard passes with his weak foot, his left foot. Just he did it a couple of times as well, and I'm just like, what? Like, and the tricks that he's got as well. He's very technical. And the thing is, Carl Walker actually said, of all the players, he did an interview and he got asked to name who were the more technical players at City, and he was the first name that he mentioned, and I was like, what? Like, nah, you can't be right, bruv. And he named him Bernardo Silva. I don't even think he named De Bruyne. He said nah. He said Zinchenko.
He didn't say De Bruyne. It was Bernardo. I think
Zinchenko light years ahead of him technically. Like.
Oh, Mahrez. It was Mahrez. Yeah.
Yeah, there was Mahrez was the other one. Yeah. But like when you see him on the ball, he's very comfortable. He's very comfortable. And at the moment, I think Tierney's always been rushed back to fitness. He's always been rushed back to the team because we've needed him. And that's where his fitness has let him down because he's trying to get back too quickly. And we had the same with Jack Wilshere. I don't want that. So I think even now Tierney's fit, I just think for the next month and a half, we should just say, as a standard, you're coming off the bench to make absolutely sure you're fit. Now, on top of this as well, if you look at in the future with him going into the centre of midfield, then Tierney can play as the left back. The options there. If Partey gets injured again, you've got Xhaka and Zinchenko that can play there, and you in a double pivot maybe. I don't know. There's options. There's.
I don't think
he played on the wing as well. He could easily play on the wing.
I don't think he can replace Partey. I think Partey is player, to be honest. I've got to be honest.
Alongside Jesus, that's a big problem. Like that's the one part of our whole team.
I don't think over for him, Simmons with Casemiro at the moment. But what I kind of want to touch upon, obviously Zinchenko, you are right. He's been fantastic. I love the way he's doing what he did at City in terms of coming into the middle of the park and almost playing like another centre mid, and obviously just overloads constantly because of the way he's positioning himself on the pitch. Again, that comes from his football IQ, which is understandable. But I kind of want to come back to what you said. I mean, you're pretty honest, which isn't something I see a lot with Arsenal fans. In terms of what you said, look, the opposition hasn't been brilliant. I'll give you the Palace game. I've got to be honest, I do think Palace are a good team. And whether they were ready or not is a different story, but I do stand by the Palace. So I think that was a hard game for you. Leicester, for me, actually, was the team that I kind of want to focus on. I know you beat them 4-2, but they were the only team out of the three that I felt like you played that genuinely caused you problems going forward. Obviously, they probably could have scored a couple of more on a different day, and obviously you still won regardless of their goals. But what I want to focus on is the frailties within that team. Also, obviously, you're nowhere near the finished article. We know that you're still progressing. But against a more potent attack, because Bournemouth were toothless, regardless of how fantastic you were, they offered. I couldn't even imagine them getting a shot away, let alone even scoring. How do you think you're going to fare against a team that actually attacks you? Because obviously Leicester, they scored 2, could have had more, with better finishing. I don't even think it's going to be us that's going to be your thingy, to be honest, because I don't even know what Man United turns up. But Mitrovic, to be honest, I was going to say him because I think Fulham, to be fair, I know you kind of skip past Fulham, but I actually think Fulham are going to be more of a challenge than Man United because we don't know which Man United will turn up in 2 weeks' time when we play at Old Trafford. Let's be real, it's literally a flip or a coin as it currently stands. But Mitrovic is a proper number 9. He's shown it in the Championship last season. So far, he's hit the ground running. Obviously, a man in form. How do you think you're going to fare with a more physical approach from Fulham? And actually, Fulham, a team that is very good going forward at the moment.
In general, yeah, I'm worried about the Fulham game because I've seen the sort of form that Mitrovic is in. And I think, sort of when you watch the Palace game, you saw signs of the Leicester are a fluid side when they attack. Palace are a more physical side when they attack, and Palace had us under the cosh, and Mitrovic, the players around him, like Divock Reed, my mate's brother, and a few other players. They've got that kind of ability, to cause all kinds of problems physically. But they've got techie players as well. That new guy that they bought, the Portuguese guy, Paulina, in the center of midfield. Yeah, like they can get the ball down and play ball. They're not just bulldozers. So. I'm not taking Fulham lightly, and I think you're right as well. Like as I said, I'm waiting for. I'm really excited to see how we do at Old Trafford, because I think bringing Casemiro in can unlock the midfielders in front of him. I've always said that. I've said when you were chasing De Jong, I was saying all along to your fan base that you need a more defensive-minded midfielder.
Yeah.
So losing out on De Jong could be a blessing in disguise for you. And look, as you showed, man, Rashford when he gets in behind, Martial, Sancho. I'm hearing talks of you looking at Anthony and Gakpo as well.
I think we're gonna get Anthony. If I'm being honest, I think if that's one person, I think because he's forcing a move desperately, I think they're just gonna allow him to leave at some point. But
our defense really. I'm looking forward to seeing these pests, because that's when defense is really gonna be tested. But I think what's good is you can see the defense gaining a togetherness and gaining in confidence, like growing in understanding of playing together. A lot of talk was about whether Saliba was going to drop Ben White or not. They're both playing at the moment, and Tomiyasu's having to wait. He's having to bide his time. Again, he's fit, but I wouldn't be in a rush to kind of change anything for the moment. I'd rather leave it as it is, and let them, because they're young and they're not, terribly experienced of playing together. That's what we've got to see. They will make mistakes, and we saw with Saliba. He scored their own goal against Leicester. I've never seen an Arsenal crowd shake off a mistake made by one of their players like that in years, and that really shows how far we've come. As a fan base, as a football club, where we are behind this guy. We believe in him. And he kind of felt that, and it was good to see him score against Bournemouth. I know they were toothless. They offered nothing in attack, but that kind of really showed that he can bounce back from difficult moments. And yeah, look, I'm not unrealistic. You can't have three central defenders under the age of 24. Your left back's 24, 25. Your goalkeeper's the same age. Tomiyasu's 23. You can't have all your defenders that age and not have mistakes. I'm with that. That's fine, but because they'll reach a point as they gain more experience where that becomes less and less. Do you know what I mean? But
I'm not sure about
I want to see how they respond from these mistakes. And against Leicester, the team went down twice and within a minute responded with goals. So their attack bailed them out. Do you know what I mean? And I feel last season we relied a lot on our defense. We weren't really getting goals. But now you're seeing the attack bailing out the defense and vice versa. The defense probably bailed out the toothlessness in the attack of the Palace game by really being organized and sticking to their job. And the Bournemouth game is just one of those games that I just want to just see us be ruthless in. And yeah, I just think Fulham and Aston Villa can cause us more problems. Villa have got Watkins, players like Ings. So yeah, we got tougher tests to come, man. The next 3 games, I'm taking each game as it comes. Obviously enjoying being top for now. I don't expect it to be like that in May. I'd love to be wrong, but I'd
love for you to be right. I
don't want that.
If Arsenal win the league, oh my God, Lord have mercy on the rest of us. Listen, that social media derby's coming up in a couple of weeks. That's already going to be as tense as it. Let alone Arsenal winning the league. All right, Kev, get your thoughts in. Obviously, I know GK. I don't know when you need to go. Is it now, or is it you've got a few more minutes?
Yeah. I need to drop off actually.
Yeah, that's calm. Just before you go, if you just want to shout your socials, I'll let the people know where they can find you, my guy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on once again. I'm Gunner King 14. I can be found on Twitter, also on TikTok. And if you go to the link tree in my bio for Ivor, you'll have like links to all my other socials. I'm also part of the Armory TV. So yeah, we've got our own YouTube channel, and yeah, you've got other affiliated channels with them as well. Man United Agenda, Paxton Road for Spurs as well. So yeah, just give me a follow and check all my stuff out, man.
You'd love to see it. Right. As always, he will be regular on our shows on Tuesday. So make sure you show him love, follow him on his socials. He is going to do a show now. So obviously you'll get a bit more insight into Arsenal currently. But yeah, GK, as always, an absolute pleasure, my bro. Thank you for coming on.
No worries, man.
No worries. All right, myself and Kev, we are going to carry on. We're just going to round up some of the other games as well. Obviously, you know, there's a few more talking points, nothing too major. Kev, obviously, I just want to get your thoughts on the title race. I know it's extremely early. It's only 3 days. Arsenal are currently top of the table, as we've just discussed. But Man City drawing 3-3. Fantastic performance by Newcastle, 3-1 up. Somewhat bottled it to an extent. I don't know if you can say that really, because it was a brilliant performance from them in general. What did you make of like Newcastle in general, though? Because obviously, before we get to Man City, is Newcastle are they starting to worry you slightly? I know they haven't. They've kind of disappointed me in a weird way in the window. I thought they would have done more. I was expecting more from them, but I suppose now that I look at the way they perform, and thankfully they haven't done more. But are Newcastle starting to become a bit of an issue now for some of us? Other clubs are somewhat teetering in that top 8 position.
No, regards to Newcastle, they're not an issue. There won't be an issue this season in terms of like, you know, challenging for top 6, top 7, in my opinion. But in terms of like, if you need to get a result, and you got Newcastle, it's just a team that you don't want to play. You've got Bruno, you've got John Linton, that midfield, ASM as well. Like when Newcastle come against Liverpool, that's going to be an interesting matchup as well. And yeah, with regards to the window, very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. I actually thought they were going to go crazy.
I legit thought they were going to spell out 300 million.
Crazy. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. Them giving Eddie Howe like an extension contract as well, I was thinking, because I'm thinking it kind of shows me that they may know that, okay, this is going to take some time. Because really and truly, like, I'm not sure. I can't remember how many years they've given him, but it was quite a bit. But like, yeah, Newcastle in general, like, in terms of the team, I do like the way they play. Against City, they did really, really well. Yeah, I don't think so. They should have conceded the way they did. But at the same time, that KDB pass as well.
That KD pass to Bernard, I've watched it so many times, and I still can't see the pass. I know he's played it through one of the players' legs. I can't remember whose legs it was. But it's just an outrageous pass from Kevin De Bruyne. But one thing I do kind of want to focus on, of course, Newcastle were brilliant going forward. Man City looked extremely susceptible at the back. I just thought it was too easy for Saint-Maximin. I know he's a fantastic player on his day. I think he contributed to all 3 goals, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, the Trippier free kick was outrageous. But we know that he's got that in his locker. But in terms of how easy it was for Newcastle to get out of City, I just felt like, I'm not obviously his 3 games in his very early doors, but it kind of blows the title race wide open as it currently stands. Obviously, you can't really say after 3 games, but Man City defensively, they looked extremely vulnerable for me. Like I was really surprised at how easy Newcastle got him. Is that something that you looked at and thought, no, what, that might be something that we may come back to coming later into the season? Because Kyle Walker, for example, he got absolutely violated the entire game. As did Costello, he was getting rinsed left, right, and centre. I mean, Grealish was talking about how one of the, I can't remember which player it was, but was playing like Almiron. And obviously Almiron scores, so obviously he had a bit of an extra motive. But Man City's defence, bro, like, do they get enough criticism? Because for me personally, the attack kind of bailed them out.
Yeah, they don't. And if you go, like, just remembering Bournemouth didn't do much. I watched that game. West Ham was toothless. That whole game was toothless. So Newcastle, the first side, actually fully attacking that City defence. And obviously, like, they do have Laporte and, you know, other guys to come back to strengthen that defence-wise. But yeah, like, you just see that every time Newcastle attacked, you're thinking, it's a bit too easy. But at the same time, there's not many guys like Saint-Maximin you're going to come up against in this league that can do it the way they can. But for me personally, I was looking at Walker's performance closely, and it was just like, damn, it's a bit weird. And yeah, like small teams, like they're playing without fear. They are playing without fear, and that's the one thing with City as well. One thing I said like around 2 years ago with Manchester City, if you attack them, you do have the risk of okay, they can just pop you, but if you actually get at them properly, a lot of the time you can definitely try and get a result, or even you can definitely get your goals in, because really and truly, I feel like a lot of teams in general, when they play City, mentally wise, I feel like they already set out for defeat.
Absolutely.
I've seen Chelsea mentally just already. You really can tell first 5 minutes they're scared mentally we're going to lose kind of thing. And yeah, like just regards to how Newcastle was doing, and that was very impressive, very very impressive. But yeah, that City defense, we'll definitely look at it. But until Laporte comes back as well, and then the match day 3 in it.
Exactly. Only match day 3, yeah, absolutely. But listen, we are going to wrap it there. Obviously, we have discussed, I feel like we've discussed everyone apart from Tottenham. West Ham are relevant, although they are in the thumbnail, as you can see Bowen's head just sticking above Kev's. But listen, we are going to come back next Tuesday, hopefully. Kish and the rest of the gang will be back. Obviously, Lawless is currently in hiding. His team is absolutely shocking. West Ham, you know, like I said right at the start of the show, 150 million for Declan Rice. He must be having a laugh. I mean, the British pundits, just want to finish on this, the British pundits are absolutely washed. These men are saying, who was it who said it? Like, I can't remember who it was. I feel like it was Darren Bent. I don't know if it was Darren Bent. I feel like it was Darren Bent. He's there talking about how Declan Rice 150 million is better than Casemiro 50 or whatever, how much we paid for Casemiro. For me, absolutely clueless. As always, that's not me being biased. I actually like Declan Rice, and I think he's probably end up at Chelsea, but he's never worth that kind of money. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And at the end of the day, it's good to see Moisey and West Ham struggle because Lawless is quiet. And when Lawless is quiet, it's a good time on the show. But listen, we're going to wrap it up. As I said, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, drop a like on the video. I might be back tomorrow, depending on if there's any news regarding Man United. But we'll be back on Thursday, definitely at 9 o'clock with Alice. Myself and Alice will be talking about Manchester United and obviously in general, the game against Liverpool in a bit more detail than we did today. And obviously looking ahead to our game against Southampton. Apart from that, it's been your boy, Usman. As always, feel free to follow us on socials. Kev, before we go, let the people know where they can find you, my guy. I know you're on the socials as well. What's your social? Let the people know.
Yeah, man. Socials, Kevs_HB. That's literally on every single social media platform you can think of, bar Facebook as well. Got a podcast as well called Against the Run of Play as well, where we just review Premier League games and sometimes teams outside Europe as well.
Yes,
and also, one more thing that I forgot to mention. You know, like everyone talked about, like, okay, we ran Maguire and stuff. Like, you know, Ronaldo did not really play that game, so it's going to be interesting how this is going to be going forward as well, just because of Ronaldo.
Yeah, I do think, well, obviously we'll talk about this on more detail on Thursday, but I do think Ronaldo's leaving, basically. And I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'll explain in more detail on Thursday, but I'm okay with that. Look, I love Ronaldo to bits. If anyone follows me on Twitter, you know, I'm one of Ronaldo's biggest fanboys. I openly admit that. Look, this guy, I love him. Nostalgia, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it's about Manchester now.
Great. I think you cut out.
I won't get disconnected then, wouldn't I? Oh my god, this one might be responsive. There we go. Honest to God, I thought I almost made it. Out of this video. But yeah, as I was saying, it's about Manchester United. It's not about Ronaldo. So at the end of the day, whatever's best for the team. And I'm happy that Ten Hag had the cojones to make those big calls, and in his case, it was a good thing that they paid dividends, because obviously that could have come back to buy him with us. But listen, stay tuned, make sure you subscribe. We will go into more detail on Thursday, 9 o'clock. As always, feel free to follow me on my social, which is Usman Talks United, as you can see on screen, on all socials, on Twitter and TikTok in particular, which is where I post. But apart from that, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Drop a like, subscribe.